You drive me wild, especially when you do that one thing that makes me forget where I end and you begin. You drive me wild, especially when your eyes hold me longer than they should, and I can't escape the pull. You drive me wild, especially when your voice drops low, saying my name like it's a secret you crave to repeat. You drive me wild, especially when your touch lingers like you're afraid to let go, and I can feel your hesitation burn. You drive me wild, especially when you look at me like I'm the only thing you've ever wanted but can't quite have. You drive me wild, especially when your silence speaks louder than your words, and I can feel your heart racing through it. You drive me wild, especially when you pull me close without saying a word, like the world disappears behind your breath. You drive me wild, especially when your hands tremble just before they touch me, betraying all that control you pretend to have. You drive me wild, especially when you laugh, because that sound feels like it was made just to wake something sleeping inside me. You drive me wild, especially when you act like you don't care, but your eyes always find me in every room. You drive me wild, especially when you whisper things you'll never admit out loud, but I hear the truth in your tone. You drive me wild, especially when your scent lingers after you leave, wrapping around me like a ghost that refuses to fade. You drive me wild, especially when you let your guard down for just a second, and I see the real you underneath the chaos. You drive me wild, especially when you challenge me, push me, and make me feel something raw and unstoppable. You drive me wild, especially when your eyes darken with desire, and I can feel the air change between us. You drive me wild, especially when you touch my face so gently, like you're memorizing me before I disappear. You drive me wild, especially when you smirk after saying something that you know will stay in my mind all night. You drive me wild, especially when you say my name in that quiet tone that sounds like a confession. You drive me wild, especially when your body speaks louder than your words, and I understand every message. You drive me wild, especially when you walk away, knowing I'll be replaying that moment until you return. You drive me wild, especially when you act calm, but your breathing tells me you're anything but. You drive me wild, especially when your hands find mine like they've been searching for home. You drive me wild, especially when your eyes tell me things your lips are too afraid to say. You drive me wild, especially when you tilt your head and watch me like I'm something dangerous you crave. You drive me wild, especially when your confidence fades for a moment, and I see the softness you try to hide. You drive me wild, especially when you trace my skin like you're writing a story you don't want to end. You drive me wild, especially when your laughter breaks my walls and I forget why I built them. You drive me wild, especially when your words hit deeper than touch, shaking something I didn't know still existed. You drive me wild, especially when you look at me like I'm both your calm and your storm. You drive me wild, especially when your silence holds 1,000 things you'll never say, but I still feel them all. You drive me wild, especially when your gaze finds mine across a crowded room and everything else blurs out. You drive me wild, especially when you tease me just enough to keep me on the edge of wanting more. You drive me wild, especially when you breathe near my neck and don't even realize what that does to me. You drive me wild, especially when your energy shifts and I can feel your thoughts before you speak. You drive me wild, especially when you hold back, because that restraint is more dangerous than any touch. You drive me wild, especially when you laugh at something I say, and it sounds like sunlight. You drive me wild, especially when you walk toward me like you already know I'll give in. You drive me wild, especially when your words trail off mid-sentence because we both feel something shift. You drive me wild, especially when you pull away, but your eyes refuse to let me go. You drive me wild, especially when you talk about your dreams, and I see fire burning in your soul. You drive me wild, especially when your confidence turns soft and vulnerable, and I see your heart. You drive me wild, especially when your body language screams what your mouth won't admit. You drive me wild, especially when your heartbeat matches mine, like we were built to find each other. You drive me wild, especially when you show up in my thoughts at the most unexpected times. You drive me wild, especially when you make me laugh in the middle of a storm. You drive me wild, especially when you look at me like you're already undressing my soul. You drive me wild, especially when you pretend you don't know the effect you have on me, but your smile says otherwise. You drive me wild, especially when your eyes travel over me slowly, like you're memorizing every inch in silence. You drive me wild, especially when you stand too close and my body forgets how to behave. You drive me wild, especially when you pause before kissing me just to watch my reaction. You drive me wild, especially when you whisper in my ear and let your breath linger there on purpose. You drive me wild, especially when you laugh while I'm trying to stay serious, and suddenly nothing else matters. You drive me wild, especially when you act like you've moved on. But your eyes still betray you. You drive me wild, especially when you lean in like you might say something, but let the silence speak instead. You drive me wild, especially when you touch my arm mid-conversation like it's the most natural thing in the world. You drive me wild, especially when you say something soft, and I can feel the truth hidden behind it. You drive me wild, especially when you do that little smirk after making me blush. You drive me wild, especially when you lower your voice, like you're telling a secret meant only for me. You drive me wild, especially when you make me feel safe and wanted at the same time. You drive me wild, especially when your confidence turns into shyness the moment we lock eyes. You drive me wild, especially when your hand brushes against mine and I feel that electric pull again. You drive me wild, especially when you tease me with your silence, knowing exactly what it does to me. You drive me wild, especially when you act like you're in control, but I can feel your pulse racing. You drive me wild, especially when you take your time saying goodbye, stretching the moment until it burns. You drive me wild, especially when you look at me like I'm the only person who exists in that second. You drive me wild, especially when your words sink deep and linger long after the conversation ends. You drive me wild, especially when you move closer without saying anything, as if the air between us belongs to you. You drive me wild, especially when you call me by my name in that tone only you use. You drive me wild, especially when you act uninterested, but your body language tells a different story. You drive me wild, especially when you touch my hair like it's something fragile you want to protect. You drive me wild, especially when your scent hits me out of nowhere and brings back every memory. You drive me wild, especially when you laugh, tilt your head, and I can't think straight for hours after. You drive me wild, especially when you take control of a moment I thought, I had mastered. You drive me wild, especially when you glance at me mid-sentence, and suddenly the world feels charged. You drive me wild, especially when your hands find my waist and everything else stops existing. You drive me wild, especially when you say nothing, yet I can feel every word you're holding back. You drive me wild, especially when you act tough, but your eyes reveal the softness you're trying to hide. You drive me wild, especially when you make me jealous just to see how I'll react. You drive me wild, especially when you brush past me, deliberately slow, letting me feel your presence. You drive me wild, especially when you laugh at my sarcasm like it's the most adorable thing you've ever heard. You drive me wild, especially when your fingertips trace invisible paths across my skin like you're studying me. You drive me wild, especially when you say something innocent, but your tone betrays your thoughts. You drive me wild, especially when you breathe my name like a prayer you shouldn't be saying. You drive me wild, especially when you look at me like you already know what I'm thinking. You drive me wild, especially when you wear that expression that says, I dare you to come closer. You drive me wild, especially when you lean back, cross your arms, and smirk like you're reading my soul. You drive me wild, especially when your voice drops an octave and I feel it more than I hear it. You drive me wild, especially when your eyes soften mid-argument and suddenly all I want is your touch. You drive me wild, especially when you walk away knowing I'll follow, even if I pretend not to. You drive me wild, especially when you call me out on my lies with that knowing grin. You drive me wild, especially when you surprise me with tenderness, right when I expect fire. You drive me wild, especially when you tilt my chin up, forcing me to meet your gaze. You drive me wild, especially when your breath catches mid-sentence, and we both know why. You drive me wild, especially when your eyes travel over me like you're trying to memorize everything.